Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Gregg Riley, Charles Dillatore, and Ashley Buckhold dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, plus use our combined experience to tell you what it all means. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
Episode 125 of The Lumber Word, coming in hot or cold? I don't know. Matt's back from over in Europe. Matt, how was the trip?
Life-changing. Yeah.
Really?
Whoa.
Yeah. No, I went to the seat of Western civilization, Rome. Yeah, I learned a lot, dude. It was definitely an eye-opening experience. It's something that I wish I'd done sooner, honestly. I want to go back.
It's always good to travel, man. It gets you out of that same old grind every day, right?
But just Europe is so different than here. The culture is just so much older, and there's just history all around. So, I mean, yeah, if you're a history geek, I kind of am. And so for me, it was interesting just from that perspective, but also just the way they live, their lifestyle, the way they eat, just everything's a little different, but also really, really cool. Really enjoyed it.
What was the highlight of Rome?
Oh, I mean, the food is great, really. So like, again, the culture is just different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Colosseum is pretty impressive. So the Colosseum is about the same size as, say, a modern NFL stadium.
Yeah.
It held between 50 and 80,000 people at one point, when it was completed. And they built it in 8 years with no heavy machinery. And it's still standing. It's kind of a mind blower. You're like thinking to yourself, how could they build this in 8 years? And yet they did. The Vatican was really cool just for the art and the the one thing that the Catholic Church has done a good job of over the last couple thousand years is holding on to relics. There's a lot of there's stuff that's pre-Roman and pre-Greek. They have a bunch of pottery that they unearthed, and it's it's 4,000 years old. Seeing that kind of stuff was really interesting. The art, Michelangelo and Raphael, the big murals that are like 60 feet wide and 40 feet tall that they painted. It's pretty impressive.
It sounds like you had a great trip. It's always like something that's like really not even that old there is like still, hundreds of years older than anything we have, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, our history goes back about 400 or 500 years, and theirs goes back 4,000 or 5,000 years. So it's a little different scale.
No doubt. Well, I'll get into the one thing.
Did you take a good look at their construction, the materials that they were using? Do a little do a little reconnaissance on that, huh?
They weren't using lumber, buddy. I'm curious since I've been, kind of.
The one thing you see in Rome is you do see a lot of scaffolding. You see a lot of scaffolding in Rome.
You guys need to fill me in on what I missed the last 2 weeks. So let's go into the market part of it.
It was amazing.
Teach me.
It was an amazing market. Probably the best market that we've had since COVID. It was. We were just like balls to the wall. Charles just he owns the Yellow Pine Market.
Real quick, I want to do the guest mailbag or female bag, whatever you want to look at here.
Excuse me?
Got a call yesterday from a guy. I won't say his name but he's a longtime listener. Ran into Gregg at the airport after Montreal, and he called here and we were chatting. Loves listening to the show. The reason he started listening to it is he was working at a couple mills and then got into the trading side of it about 3 years ago. And he listens just for advice on what's going on. Right. And it doesn't even trade
another lamb for the slaughter.
Doesn't trade a lot of the same products that we trade. He's more of a plywood type of trader, but he was just kind of telling me there's like this scam going around right now where, so if you get a call from somebody wanting to buy full trucks of plywood or lumber for that matter, and you ship it to a job like in New York or somewhere, and they tell your trucker that nobody's there to go somewhere else like 20 miles away, you may want to be careful about that. So I've heard this is kind of happened more than a handful of times to different distributors, and these guys get credit and everything, and it's a scam. So make sure if you're setting up a new customer and your new trader just got a great price on something, they couldn't believe it, and this person has credit, you may want to make sure that the legitimate job site you're sending it to or the place is a real place, and tell your trucking companies not to ever divert to another location unless you're darn sure of it. So I thought that was pretty good.
Ash, and then just, like you told me about that, and I go, yeah, it's just amazing to me with the number of trucks that we ship every single day that, you don't have more instances of this happening. And then I had a request this morning for a proof of delivery, and I'm going, oh yeah, that shipped on April 25th, and asked for the proof of delivery, and sure enough, we never got a mill bill from the trucker, and we're trying to track the guy down now, and he's ghosting us. And so, yeah.
I mean,
probably got double broken.
It's hard to make up for that 15 grand. That's for sure.
That's exactly. So, I mean, I just thought that was interesting feedback from the outside of people listening to us. And I'm sure we've all had those trucks stolen, or the guy show up with a full face mask on and duct tape over his license plate and still gets his load picked up.
What is this, Fast and Furious? What kind of lumber do y'all sell? We
had that at the port a couple months ago.
Oh, I remember y'all talking about that, actually. Yeah.
So, yeah, Matt, we'll catch you up. Let's go regional stuff. And are you up? Have you got dialed in on any U.S. species yet, which you guys did for the last while you were gone?
Pretty flat. I mean, I think 2x4 spruce is better for us out of Babine. 2x6 is still kind of stuck in that low 500s Midwest type of pricing, and it doesn't matter if it's Hem-Fir, Doug-fir, or spruce. And then the wides have gotten a little bit better. Like 2x12 out here had gone sub 400 mil. It was the cheapest thing that mills could produce in dry Hem-Fir. And it's selling again. It's going up. It's up maybe 5%. But I don't think I missed much, based on what the feedback I got internally since Monday, since I started asking questions. And then the stuff that I buy and sell out west, the prices I'm pretty much just going with the same types of prices that I was using before I left. And we're, I'm trading, but it's not busy. I'm not slow, but I'm like medium paced business so far the last 2.5. I don't know if that's kind of how it was while I was gone, where it's just more of the same, where we're just kind of trading and no real pulse to it. But there's stuff moving every day, and that's what it seems like.
You missed us. So Russ was on last week, Taylor, and man, I gotta say
that was a great show. It's always good having him.
I gotta say, look, kudos to our guy Charles up there, who broke the frickin' abacus out and dialed in the cost of production. Pretty impressive. I had to call him after that and be like, hey man, that was some pretty quick math.
I appreciate
Which
that.
Charles?
So tell me again.
Charles?
Who else?
Charles, so tell me again.
He said up there.
Gatewood,
he should be saying down there.
Gatewood is what, $35? Gatewood?
Anywhere from 37 to 45, yeah.
And what does that translate to dollars per thousand at the gate?
And so we use a 42 average on 25. It's 1050 divided by about $175 a thousand, $42 a ton.
So at today's prices, when you're looking at the 2 and better and the mid to high 200s on 6, 8, 10, and maybe high 300s on 4-inch, and the low grade where it is. I mean, I guess what do you think? Are you, you're darn close to selling at the cost of the fiber, not including all the other costs.
Yeah, I mean it's getting interesting, and I mean Prince, the industry is not capturing the complete picture of what's going on in the South, but 6-inch is kind of firmed up. Discounts have dissipated. I know you and we all talked about it while Matt was gone, and I mean there were there were some pretty big disparities from mill to mill, depending on buildups and order files. But as a whole, 6 inches kind of firmed up. But one thing I will say is,
when you say firm, when you say firm,
what, 250 mil on 2 and better?
No. On average, you're probably 285.
When you throw the $100, 1,000 drying and labor costs into that, that's about a break even. That's just barely above break even. If you're talking,
that's barely break even.
Yeah. That's a great point. And then Matt, like I was going to kick it over to Gregg to talk about Great Lakes and Boston pricing, but like we've had some good sales days on trucks, and then you come in some days and I know how Gregg feels working with me now sometimes, because one day I'll put my head in his office and we've sold a whole bunch of trucks, and today I poked my head in the office and I was a little scared, man. Gregg, you were looking at that chart thinking it was going up and down, and like
I continue to be bipolar, and I don't have any prescription drugs to deal with that. And I think I could use them. It's we continue to be cheap, be busy. We're turning dollars in a lot of cases. Keep inventory moving. But we'll have a couple of really good days, and I'll get a little bit of giddy up, and maybe send a few extra POs out, and then the next day I'm out there, and I'm all set to slit my wrists and go, we got to get rid of this stuff. But that's just to Matt's point. This market really flat right now. We've Ash, you and I talked about this. There's some items that have bounced in the East. 9-footers have been a good item. They're up $40, $50 probably from low trade, but maybe stalling here. 2x4 14s and 16s have been real good. 6-inch seems to have bottomed out. I don't know that I can say that it's any higher, but the 6-inch like studs are still struggling. There's still some deals to be made on 9 and 10 foot.
What is that deal level?
You're probably like, if you're looking cars into you may be sub 600 into Carolinas on cars today on 2x6 9s, 2x6 10s. We're looking for the market on some Euro that we've got coming in. We're thinking that's in the middle low 500s delivered. We thinking it's there. I mean, we've got a little bit of action, but yeah. There you go, Matt. You were gone a great time. Now I will tell you that I'm headed out a week from today. I will be gone for a couple of weeks, and the book is that the market's usually pretty strong when I'm out of the office. So, I'm going to hand that off to all you guys. Hope you enjoy it.
So
I have a theory about the market and why we're stuck.
Why is that?
Okay.
What is it?
Well, the demand's flat, right? I mean, so you look at the big buying companies that are out there. There's 3 majors that control a big portion of the pro builder yards now. And you know who they are. I don't need to name names, but there's 3 major companies that don't want to add inventory, that their accountants tell them to keep their inventories in check. And so there's no incentive for them to take big positions. They've got also very some VMIs hitting them at a regular basis. So, they've also got plenty of options from people like Ashley, Charles, and myself to buy fill-in trucks if they need to. So the demand side is kind of stuck. And then on the supply side, we're really just kind of in equilibrium. And, until we get into that 3rd and 4th quarter high tariff, high tax environment that the Canadians are facing, we won't really see till it actually happens. And even then it'll be later. It'll take longer for it to be noticeable than what a lot of people think. So a lot of people think, oh, if I buy the July contract at 600, or if I buy the September contract at 620, I'm going to make a killing. And my counter argument is that all these mills know that there's going to be a big tax coming from Canada, and they're going to ship lumber across the border. And so I'll be competing with that lumber. You'll be competing with that lumber. There'll be plenty more lumber for us to pick and choose from for the next 90 days. And I don't think you really see the effects of lower production until really the end of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter and first quarter next year. So, maybe we'll get some economic information that's going to change people's attitudes towards buying homes between now and 6 months from now. But I just feel like we're going to remain stuck. And I have no interest in changing my posture on inventory or my attitude towards the market until I actually see it. So I'm going to wait and see. I'm not going to be the front runner here. I'm going to be the guy that sits back and watches. And I think patience is a virtue these days. I really do. You can't force a square peg into a round hole and vice versa. I think a lot of guys are trying to do that and they're getting frustrated. You shouldn't. You just take what the market gives you.
That's really good advice, Matt. That's for sure. Yeah, I think that's spot on the demand side, and probably pretty good on the supply side. With, I guess, the caveat being, hey, what if any effect will summer shutdowns? If we're in equilibrium, will summer shutdowns, tip that balance somewhat? Will Southern pine production continue to run at the same levels that it's running at right now through the summer? Yeah, I don't. Ash and I had this
Charles
conversation
would be
earlier
the
today
guy
about
that answer that question.
Ash and I had this conversation about the demand side. We got data for the prior months. New home sales was a good number, and the inventory was down to 8 months. And we were talking about the consolidation of big builders, and they're going to continue to build and sell houses. And then Ash came in with look at what's happening to the supply of existing homes, and the recognition that with new and existing home prices have collapsed down right on top of existing. And now you're getting that supply increase on existing. And I think you're going to see some, pretty decent price corrections over the next 6 to 12 months on existing homes in a number of markets. And that's going to be a real positive, because every time one of those trades, you get an uptick in existing homes. That's really good for R&R, because that spurs that business.
How many homes are for sale, Greg?
All of them. Every one of them. Every single one of them.
Every single existing home ever built is for sale.
Honestly,
every
of all the things you've ever said, that's the one. I'm going to write that one down.
Guy, hey, walk down the street and knock on the door and say, "Hey, is your house for sale?" And they go, "No, it's not." I go, "Hey, if I gave you X, would you sell it?" Sold.
No, they'd probably say, "Let me ask my wife."
Whoa.
Right? That's how a lot of people in all of our neighborhoods are.
So well,
maybe that's how it operates up there in Chicago.
Yeah, Ashley's been beaten.
Let me. I'll give you $2 million for your home.
Can we talk about? What do you want to talk about, Ash? We got some time left.
I wanted to do two things. I wanted to do, I had one of the notes down here. I wanted to talk about the big, beautiful bill, and then I decided against that.
Come on. Let's go there.
And I figured we'd hold off on that. One of the interesting things I think we saw this week.
And you know why we're going to hold off, Ash? Because a bill can be big and it can be beautiful, but it can't be big and beautiful.
That's right. That's right. We saw a couple.
There's a lot of things in life like that. Greg.
Do that.
Charles a couple months ago brought up the whole Fannie and Freddie thing, and then we had that guest on talking about Fannie and Freddie, and all of a sudden,
you loaded up on the stock. I remember.
I know that was my call.
He did. He loaded up.
He called me and told me about it.
So.
So you can get good guys can get good trading ideas, not just about lumber, but about other things on the show.
So I got that from a guy that's been on our show before. He called me and talked to me about it, and I loaded up on it like the day before they announced that. So,
did you trade out of that yet, or are you still in it?
No, I usually wait till it goes back to zero before I trade out of it again.
Yeah.
Go back down where you bought it. Yeah.
That's the history of those type of things. But so we've got a lot of things that could pop up. Housing, the taking Fannie and Freddie private again. Interest rates, who knows what's going on? The market's kind of all over the place. But I wanted to do a lumber pick challenge instead of like we do the Mary Date Dump, where we all pick one item that's undervalued. You can even do an overvalued if you want. I'd like it to be able to print so we can see what it does. Price today, and then on August 4th, 2 months. I think you need 2 months for something to play out like this. We will look at the prediction to see what it is. So that's the lumber pick challenge. And then we're going to do a short-term forecast game after that one. So the lumber pick challenge, everybody can pick one item. It can be one item going up or one item going down. And then on the 4th of August, 2 months, we'll see where the item is.
I mean, it'd be nice if we'd gotten like a head start on this, so we could have done instead of just going off the seat of our pants.
Well, this is why I send the email out with the description on it.
Oh.
You think he reads that?
Hang on, we can do this.
And
Charles,
I didn't pick one either yet, just because I knew we'd all be coming in at a.
Right.
I'm gonna say
Ash has got charts on his screens right now in his office.
I don't.
Highlighted.
I don't.
I'm gonna take the low lying fruit. I'm gonna take the I'm going first because I want to take what I think is the easiest one. So 2x6 SYP.
Which side do you want to take? Which region?
I'm going to take the lowest region, which is central.
260.
At 260. And I am going to say 60 days from now, it's 350.
I'll take that bet.
Bold.
You want the over? You want the under? You want the under?
Yeah.
Okay.
350?
350. Up $90 in 60 days.
Wow. Okay.
I like
Load up the boat, baby. Just back up the Brinks truck, get the gold bars out, and put 6-inch 2 in it.
Okay, that's so basically you're saying 260 central, 8.4 print, we're up $100.
$90.
$90. Okay.
To be exact.
All right, I like it. I'm going to pick 2x4 just Western Mill at 456 print today. And in 2 months on 8.4, I think it's going to be at 456 print.
it.
I'll take the over.
I think I'd take the over on that one, but not more than 50 over. I think
80% of the market. I think 80% of the market would take the over on that. That's why I'm.
Yeah. You're good at the 2080. I'm going to say 2x12 Hem-Fir. What's print on that one right now for West Coast Hem-Fir?
2x12 Hem-Fir Coast 395. Matt, does that sound?
370 Spokane.
Up 100.
You don't want to take 370 Spokane, get a little edge on it?
395. So you're saying 395 to 4.
Both of them. I think Spokane and Northern Cal. So the Reading, all three of the prints, the inland, the West Coast, and the NorCal prints will be up 100 in 60 days.
Has it stopped going down yet? I mean, is there any interest on that item? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's good for you.
Literally,
that's great.
It's already starting to bounce up. I think I have a theory, but I don't want to say it publicly. But I just think that one's going to go up.
We have a private chat about that.
You just did.
Okay.
Charles, how about yourself?
Oh man, August 4th, huh? I will say 2x4, 14, number 2 in the central is probably going to be.
You are dialing it. You are dialing it in, man.
He's getting in. What is it today?
410.
Print's 410.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'll take.
You said up 50.
And what are you gonna? Where's it gonna be?
460.
I like it.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then we're just going to go over to the quick short term. So 592 is July CME right now.
It's all going to zero.
And 567 is Western Spruce to Chicago, and 595 is Hem-Fir to Chicago. I'm throwing those both in there because they're both deliverable. 420. Everybody knows what 420 is.
No, what is that? I went to private school when I was growing up.
That's where the kids all go down to the beach at 420. 420 we are in Southern Yellow Pine.
Over.
Yeah, Southern Yellow Pine. Southern Yellow Pine East Side for futures, and prints at 455. So where are we going to be in 2 weeks on CME July? And on the either Western Chicago or Hem-Fir Chicago.
580.
I mean, I got July trading down. I got Western Spruce, maybe inching higher. I'm saying 570 on both.
Okay,
Yeah,
I like it.
I think 570 cash, 580 futures is kind of. We could go down below 580 for sure, but I don't think it would stay there very long. Yeah, I don't see any big changes.
I had Ash freaking out this morning. I pulled out the chart and I strapped the mask on, went really deep, and I'm going, look at this. This is a massive down wedge that projects down to $520. Oh my God. What are we gonna do?
And then I said, why don't you flip the chart over the other way?
Yeah. and then I went, oh my God, it's going to 640.
That's no doubt. So, all right, so I threw the pine in there for you, Charles, because we got a little bit more open interest now on that new CME contract. So is that right? Is it at 420 right now? Do I have the right number on there?
It's not.
It is.
Yeah, the contract's trading, cash isn't there yet, but I mean, we're not far off.
416 bid, 430 offer.
So,
we're not far off.
So 2 weeks from now on 618 show, where is that print going to be?
I think you'll see convergence around 415 to 425 in that $10 range over the next 2 weeks.
Okay. You think the 4-inch cash is going to kind of come down? Are we going to finally?
I mean, look at the lowest cost denominator. I mean, let's think about this from a data point standpoint. That we're able to access, right? So you look at Southern Yellow Pine 6-inch cross zones.
Yeah.
Okay. Historically speaking, Western and Central, there's probably a $5 to $15 spread. Same thing between Central and East historically. And that's finally where 6-inch bottoms, right? Where we're not seeing 30, 40, 50, 60, $80 discounts. Well, if you look at 4-inch East side, you're still printing at 525. So theoretically, you've got a board that is $95. No, $105 discounted to whatever print's showing. But in order for 4-inch to settle and kind of create a trading level, it's going to have to be a scenario to where you have convergence and you have a historical spread between all zones versus such a large premium.
Mm-hmm.
And it played out in 6-inch like a Michelangelo painting, right? It was perfect.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the guy that does Shakespeare. That's what I was trying to say, but
there you go.
I'm not as well versed in world travel as you are.
So 455, you're getting more to a normalized spread on the 4-inch, right? On the different regions, or should it come down more?
It's coming down. I mean, if you're at, let's just use Central because it's right in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And it's the lowest cost 16 foot. That's $450 on print. So that's a $75 difference. So as soon as Central wood cannot go to Atlanta and smoke East Side wood is when things start to level out.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. That makes sense. And then the futures is already
got that costed in.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Which means it's working, or in my opinion, It's predicting.
It's giving you directional feel
Yeah.
to where the market is. Correct.
Matt, what was the question? Sorry about that. Interrupted you.
The question I have for Charles is, does he expect yellow pine curtailment as the year goes on? Like permanent curtailment?
Some of the mills that they curtailed started running again in the past 6 months. So I don't have a crystal clear answer. I really don't.
That's crazy. I was
What
telling
about
Gregg
OSB?
today, I don't think
We don't talk
OSB,
about
something's
OSB
gotta
that
give it
much,
OSB.
but apparently it's in trouble.
OSB, something's got to give. That's the only product that had a ride through this craziness over the past 12 months. And it is the purest form or example of demand destruction, lack of production, reduction, if that makes sense. Right?
So how-
They didn't cut
Yeah,
production, but it shows how much demand has deteriorated based on historic production levels. So they're going to have to right size that at some point. How they do it, I don't know.
And I think they've tapped some of the deals, sell several hundred trucks at a discount to solidify the order file, to a couple of select people.
that happens.
They fish,
No.
they fish that hole. So you're not going to be able to go back to those guys and move that excess, again, right? I mean, the guy that does that.
I mean,
back
well,
in.
to me,
yeah, I mean,
that's a
the other thing is
warning
the market
sign
goes-
for yellow pine.
I mean, the market goes to its lowest point, right? I mean, even when that happened, we were trading in the high twos, right? And there was a low trade of 270 or 265. Print went back down to that level. So contracts reflected it. And then it moved forward from there. But it always goes back down to that lowest cost denominator.
Matt, it is a warning sign sometimes for pine because you run a correlation between OSB and pine 4-inch. From the charts that I looked at that I ran, it's got a pretty high correlation, right? Because OSB is simply really directly related to, especially if you look in the Southeast, new home sales, right? New home construction. And
I look at it more
it's a good
from a production standpoint. If you think about OSB and yellow pine, heavy southern production, right? And those mills are close to the market, as opposed to Hampton shipping stuff to New York and, from Babine down to Florida. And, it takes 4 to 6 weeks for us to get our stuff to the market. The yellow pine mills and the OSB mills in the South, it takes them a week. And if you're seeing a slow and gradual demand destruction and price destruction of OSB, which is a pure commodity that has absolutely a 1-to-1 correlation with studs and dimension, then I expect that will bleed into the next closest related thing to it, which would be yellow pine lumber production. And so you're going to find the cost of production. And that's where we're at right now, I guess, based on what Charles said earlier. We're kind of right there. But until you see curtailment, like real curtailment, then nothing will change. They're just going to lose billions of dollars on an annualized basis and just have to go in and tell their boss that they're just content with that. And at some point, the boss is going to say, no, let's not do this anymore.
But how does that, how does somebody just say, how is that logically? I understand the workforce thing. I understand, active in communities. I mean, you're talking about huge organizations, right? And they have a footprint, they have a level of influence on these local environments. But I mean, you look at some of the biggest paper manufacturers in the world, and just in the state of South Carolina have shut down major production facilities due to lack of demand, permanently. Why don't we operate the same way from a lumber standpoint? I know there's costs associated with turn it off, turn it on. I know there's a major that rebuilt a mill and they can basically turn production on and off with a light switch, and it's not a huge startup time. But from a historic standpoint, I know a couple mills that were basically permanently shut down, and now one of those two are running again. And I don't.
Could it be contracts on the lumber side? Like you got to run to hit your contracts, right?
I think
Yeah, but it was shut down.
OSB
They
also.
negotiated their contracts.
Yeah.
It was shut down. They negotiated
paper
their
mills
contracts.
is. I mean, the thing about paper mills is that's a structural change. You know what? we don't use as much paper as we used to. We don't,
I agree with you, but so is demand destruction. That's basically
but the lumber is more seasonal in that, or cyclical, I should say, in that. I mean, listen, we can all acknowledge that there is a level of pent up demand. We're saying, hey, demand destruction. Housing starts, lumber consumption this year is going to be marginally lower than last year, like a few percentage points. It's not going to be, we're not falling 10 or 20% in demand. We're going to fall like 1 or 2 or 3%.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I mean, I understand. I understand
with that in
though,
mind, and there's, listen, there's an opportunity for an increase in demand. We actually didn't want to talk about the big beautiful bill because we know it can't be big and beautiful. But I mean, if it's big and it's pro-growth, then a year from now, we're going to have an economy that's opposed to people hand-wringing and not knowing what they're going to do. Things are going to be substantially better. That doesn't mean interest rates are going to be lower, but the economic activity is going to be higher.
But what is the major driver though in what we do, right? It's single family housing is the biggest piece in what we do in big box, right?
I mean, it's like
interest rates.
It's repair and remodeling
better
and single family, right?
I mean, I agree with you, but my
Go
point
ahead, Charles.
is that
finish your thought.
As a consumer, the interest rate is very, very important. And if interest rates don't go down and we don't have improved monetary policy, and you have people that are afraid of losing their jobs to a robot, or somebody who's going to reshore manufacturing and that plan went kaput, we're still in a situation where you have organizations that have mills that are still within 250 miles of each other buying from the same stumpage basket. And I don't understand why as an industry, it's okay for both of us to share in the losses when we could just have one mill that breaks even. If we had marginal improvement in prices, like we cannibalize ourselves and it doesn't make any sense. And I guess that's my point. And it is cyclical.
We've always done that. I mean, there's an old joke
the
that
math doesn't math to me.
It's an industry that always goes back to the cost of production, and higher cost producers during those times get weeded out. And, and what you're talking about happens, right? They're in the same same fiber basket, and the strong survive. I mean, we're a Darwinian industry, which is really great.
Yes.
And, creative destruction. It's all about that. And that's awesome. I love it.
And the minute there's any time we pop above the cost of production and start trending higher, everybody figures out a way to make a lot more lumber.
Well, that's also my point.
Yeah, without telling you.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a lot less
Charles.
euro over the summertime hitting the ports, right? Is that enough marginally to change the dynamics? Right?
Why is that?
Look at
because they permanently curtail mills. Because the log costs are too high.
You got lots of curtailments over there. The log costs are really high. Their business is better. All of the above. Our price, I mean, $650 FOB U.S. port is kind of like the break even now. Exchange rate, all of those things. So, we had a call with one of our, really good partners. Was that last week or the week before? Actually, I forget.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And we talked about, one of the things you look at is what's happening on vessel space. And, there was a report that the shippers are, they're working really hard to get enough cargo to come over to ports.
And some of the shippers that would take a whole vessel just for themselves are now splitting it up with other people, right? And so question,
is that going to be enough at the margin? Maybe you combine that with summer shutdowns, with some permanent curtailments, and, things are going to be a little bit better. But, back to Matt's point, it's not going to be great because demand is punk, right? So we continue to be in the same supply push market that we've been in for the last 12 to 18 months.
And I think, Charles, one thing, this is just me pulling something out of thin air, and it's my own idea. It's probably there's probably more of a social safety net in Europe to shut a mill down than there is at certain places. And I think people are more worried about, if you shut one of those mills down, how are you going to get employees back?
But why? But
Yeah.
here's the thing, though. If man,
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, there's definitely a social difference between the two.
Yeah.
Right.
And I may be wrong on that. I'm just thinking. I'm thinking like these. There's a difference between a break-even cost and a shutdown cost. And
for sure,
a shutdown cost is always, from what I've seen, a lot lower than I, in my mind, imagined it was. And just real quick,
yeah, it's when you start going cash flow negative is when people really get concerned.
Now, I will probably get calls that I don't know it.
Yeah. I like to joke, Charles, I've said this for years. I've never underestimated the mill's ability to fuck up a good market. And
no, I mean, it's
really what
it's
and I say it as a smart ass, but I say it with truth behind it, because when things are really good, mills will shorten their order file and try to get higher cash prices in the spot market, and then the flip side is, when things get bad, they'll seek more contracts and VMIs for safety, for volume, and they'll try to have longer order files. Now, in my opinion, this is just me speaking, the smartest mills do it exactly backwards. They try to have big order files when prices are high, and they try to keep their cash closer when prices are low so that they can be more flexible. Now, that's just my opinion. Now, I'm just one guy. I don't control the mills, but I've seen this happen for 30 years. And what I say is tongue in cheek, but also true. So, and it's just capitalism, dude. It's just the way we operate.
Matt, to your point, it never ceases to amaze me. It's like when the market's really strong and it's like, hey, can I have 3 or 4 of those? They go, no, you can only have 1. And then when the market's really like bad and it's like, yeah, like I need a car, and goes, well, I'll do that, but you need to take 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, real quick, if we go around the horn 30 seconds, what's a tip that you would all give new traders in this market, in this type of market condition, for how they could stand out versus other traders that don't listen to the lumber word?
Don't eat yellow snow.
Okay.
I mean, that's always a good tip. You know what? I mean, it's just like,
what if they live somewhere there is no snow, Greg? You got to give universal advice.
All right. Well, I'll start out. Here's my tip to young traders: specialize in one item. I mean, you can sell other ones, but know the market back and forth on one item. It can be a straight length. It can be a random type of thing. So when you call a mill or a distributor, you always know what you can buy that item from them on the phone call, or sell it on the phone call. I get emails and calls from guys saying, what do you got today? Send me your list. You're not giving me any information, you're not getting my list. If you want to know what 2x4 16s are in the Cape, you got to tell me what you're going to buy them for in the market, right? Before I give you my information. So that's my information. If you're talking to veterans and you just ask them to send you your list, it's not going to happen unless you're giving a free flow of information back, and you have and you can actually trade on a phone call, in my opinion. That's my advice.
I would say learn how to become more of a thinker as a consultant, rather than just a guy that pitches lumber at people all day long. You know, you're dealing with businesses and they have problems. And if you can help businesses solve their problems, then they start to look at you differently. You don't fit into the wholesaler basket. You don't fit into the annoying phone call basket. So when you're a young trader, all you really have to offer people is hard work and character and your ability to listen. And so you should focus on those things. And then as you develop more skills over time, learn how to exploit those skills, but not at the expense of your customer, but in alignment with what your customer's needs are. So you have to understand that you have value and your value changes over time. When you're young, your only value really is to get to learn your customers' needs and then solve those for them as best you can. And once you start figuring that out, you'll become a more seasoned trader over time.
I think you got to do everything with intent, and you just got to execute. And to Ash's point, I think you have to make sure that every conversation you have, there's a reason for you to have it. And it's got to be a good give and take, because anybody that is going to give you information is going to expect information in return. It just is what it is. It doesn't matter if it has to do with Southern Yellow Pine or Doug Fir or Hem-Fir or Whitewoods, right? Matt or Gregg or Ash versus Pine, right? You got to have the ability to understand what those different things are doing all simultaneously and how it could potentially affect you and your customer base. And really make decisions and execute is absolutely number one. And if there is a problem, fall on the sword. Don't run away from it.
Right.
A lot of people don't like confrontation, and they'll ignore and they'll reply to an email 2.5 hours later and still don't have a solution to it. Just pick up the phone and call somebody and be like, hey, man, this is a shit show. Let me tell you what happened, right? Don't lie, but be transparent. And that gives you the opportunity to jumpstart that level of trust versus the alternative.
You guys, those are all, that is all really, really great stuff. And I mean, I appreciate that. Also, I'll augment my, my prior comment by, saying, he's like, always sit with your back to the wall. Eat at a place called Mom's, and don't eat yellow snow.
Very useful information.
That's funny.
Yes.
Hey, can we talk about? Are you going to go, Ashley? Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. We had a little delay, so go ahead.
No, are you going to give your advice? Did you already do that?
Yeah, no, I gave mine, but I listened to you guys too. And look at it, what it sums it up is your person on the other end of the phone, when they see your caller ID coming through, they need to think that that person that calls Matt, Charles, or Gregg, there's a reason why I'm picking up that phone call, because I know if I don't pick it up, I'm going to miss out on something.
Well, then why do you always not pick up my phone calls?
That's why I get so much voicemail.
You never pick up my phone calls.
That's why I call you always on Saturday night or Sunday morning when I'm walking the dog, because it's important that I talk to you.
Yes, I agree. And Matt's the same way. I'll call Matt and he'll send me straight to voicemail. Oh, I'm in the middle of something. It's fine, man.
Yeah.
I'm just
I got 4 kids, dude. I'm busy.
Like what you did to me. Like what you did to me today.
I did. You're damn right. That's the first time that's happened in 6 months, Gregg.
Actually, Gregg said he was going to call and ask about 2x6 pine. I'm like, why call Charles on that? He's just going to BS us because he doesn't want us to get in that trade.
Well, see, there's a lot of things that I don't really care. I welcome competition. May the best man win, right? But you realize what you're good at. Hold on, Ash. Didn't you just say get really good at one thing? So why don't we focus on what we're good at?
But you can multitask and be okay at other things.
Yeah, but then you're a jack of all trades and a master of none.
I've resembled that a lot over the years. I've resembled that a lot, And the crazy thing is, it's like, and I say this to Ashley, I go like, why did I do that? It's like, I know better. It's like I've been doing this a long time, and I still do that. I'm like, damn. That's why I'm staying in the business, because I still got time to get it right.
That comes down to taking the 2x12 purchase out of the equation here. When you look at, like Gregg was saying, when he's got it in front of him, here are the extremes. When these numbers get to this, chances are they're just a good buy or a good sell. Just like Matt, on your desk, you used to have, this is the highest I did number 3 at and the lowest I bought it at, right?
I mean, that's just in my head.
Yeah.
There's just institutional knowledge. Hey, can I give a shameless plug for myself here?
Sure.
Since it's our show.
Yeah.
Some of you guys may know this and some of you may not. I'm assuming a lot of people don't know this, but out west, some of the mills will run ponderosa pine and lodgepole pine and some Engelmann spruce and alpine fir as whitewoods. They'll stamp it Western Woods or White Woods. And for years I've traded that. A lot of that goes into the desert Southwest. It's really a niche species. It would be like the Canadians producing northern species. It's a slightly weaker piece of lumber than spruce or Doug fir or Hem-Fir, but it's still viable in many markets. Well, I have a mill that's making that for us, for Hampton, and I have the sales agreement on that product, and I'm getting about 3 million feet heavy 2x4 per month. I just came back from Europe. I've got a couple million feet of 2x4 graded premium, graded number 2, and graded standard better premium fall down. It's just a knot size thing that I'm looking to sell. And my strategy has always been to sell this stuff at like within about a stone's throw of whatever spruce or Hem-Fir is going for. So the pricing is cheaper than what your commodity spruce and Hem-Fir is going to trade at. It's heavy 2x4. I got plenty of 16s and 14s. If you have never tried, I've got pictures, I've got success stories. I want you to call me. I want you to email me. I want to find some new business. I know where all the bodies are buried on this stuff. I've traded for 30 years, but I want new business. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're interested, give me a holler.
How do they get a hold of you, Matt?
Smoke
Matt
signals,
Beamer
because he doesn't reply to anything else.
hamptonlumber.com. Yeah.
Just Matt.
Matt
Is it Matt?
Beamer,
Matt
BEYMER. Nope,
Okay.
just all one big long run on Matt Beamer at hamptonlumber.com.
Does that stuff goes on rail car all over? Obviously,
rail mainly, yeah, mostly into the western U.S. We just sold a car into Alabama here. I don't know, right before the show. It goes into Alabama, Memphis. It could go to Georgia. It could go anywhere.
What's your delivery?
Wisconsin.
What's a Birmingham 12 and longer 2x4 number 2?
I've got standard better premium price at $555, and I've got 2 and better. I think priced at around. I think I have a straight car at 12s and 2 and better. I'd sell down there for like $530, $525. But yeah, no, Charles, let's talk after the pod and I'll shoot you the list. So it's not yellow pine, dude.
Wait.
It's definitely not yellow pine.
I'm just excited to talk to you outside of the podcast.
I'm just curious. What does that replace? Who would buy that? What would somebody else?
I can't wait. You let me know and I'll be there.
What's that, Ash?
So I got a good camping story. Oh no, we can't do it on TV. So
yeah, I don't know.
So you wake up in the morning and
I was just curious on that product. What does it replace? Like what is somebody buying and what are they buying to replace that with?
Spruce or Hem-Fir. It's going to be in a place where like Texas or Oklahoma where they're using number 3 or utility for building codes. So in a place where the building codes aren't super stringent, because like I said, WW doesn't have the same strength ratings as spruce or Hem-Fir. It's a little bit weaker on the MOI and all that stuff if you look it up in the WWPA grade rule book. But there's many places in Oregon, Washington, California, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. I mean, I've shipped this to half the country over the last 30 years that will sub it. They'll use it in certain applications. So, yeah, if you're looking for nice lumber at a discounted price, that's why this stuff is made. Honestly, it's a lot of it gets treated and turned into decking.
All the guys that buy Euro no grade stamp for us and ship it as 2 and better, they can use it.
It'd be huge. Yeah,
for sure.
What's 2x4 16 2 and better delivered Atlanta on a car?
I had a car. I sold it for about $605.
Oh, you're talking about you're talking about this you're the WW.
I had a WW premium 2 and better 883216. I sold it at about 605 to 610 equivalent delivered Atlanta.
So it's about 10.
And Euro trucks are like 665. Eastern cars are like maybe 645, 650.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. That was
done with my plug.
That was a good plug.
Actually, that makes sense. Is like, I think we sold Euro no grade stamp at like,
$900.
$580, $585.
Yeah. That makes sense. All right, boys. Appreciate it.
Great. So, Matt, good to have you back, man.
I'm thrilled to be back, you guys. I missed you.
Yeah, we met. This is great. And I guess are we going to get you on next week, Gregg, before you leave?
Yeah. I think I'll be on. I'm on next week, and then I'll be gone the 2 following weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Thanks,
Awesome,
Charles,
guys.
Matt.
Cheers.
Gregg.
Boys.
We'll talk to you later.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.